First thing that you should know is that there's a lot of different ways to
Здравейте,
play this
днес
game.
ще ви показвам
FNAF
за
6
fnaf
has 7
6.
different endings. As such, it's the most strategic game in the series, and you should have a plan before going into it. These first few guides will go over how to complete each night and obtain the completion certificate, which I consider to be the standard ending. Afterwards, I'll talk about how you can get the other endings and achievements. This guide will only be focusing on how to beat Monday and Tuesday and how to complete the first 2 salvages. I'm not going to talk about different routes or how to farm cash or anything like that. I'll explain everything in later guides. I'd also like to let you guys know that I'll be streaming live right here on YouTube in just about 24 hours, starting tomorrow at 3 p.m. CST. I'm going to be playing a lot of FNAF, explaining how to beat various nights, and talking about some of my future plans. Be sure not to miss it. I'll put out a community post and an announcement on Discord when it starts. With that out of the way, go ahead and load up a new game, skip the cutscene, or watch it if you want, and get started on Monday. Before you do anything else, buy the sanitation station. This thing is going to be your best friend when you're new to FNAF 6. It reduces risk and increases health and safety. As long as you follow these guides and don't buy anything else risky, this will completely eliminate the chances of any unwanted animatronics appearing in the building. You basically get to pick who your foes are, almost like in a custom night. Speaking of reducing unnecessary risks, avoid any sponsorships. Cash is almost useless when going for the completion ending. Once you've hit the finish button and started up the night, it's time to get comfortable with the mechanics. This is the only section that you need to be good at to get the completion ending. Like the first half of Sister Location, FNAF 6 is a game based on objectives rather than time. These objectives can be completed using the terminal in front of you under the task window. There are 5 ordering tasks, 3 advertising tasks, and 3 maintenance tasks, leading to a total of 11 tasks. All 11 tasks must be completed before you can finish the night. It's important to remember that the night doesn't end when the last task is completed. Instead, you must click the log out button that appears near the bottom of the task window. Advertising tasks take the longest to complete, so it's best to get them out of the way quickly. After that, move on to maintenance tasks, and finally, ordering tasks. You'll also have access to 3 systems: the motion detector, the audio lure, and the silent ventilation. Motion detector allows you to see where animatronics are in the building, but only for a brief time when they move. Audio lure draws nearby animatronics to wherever it was placed. Finally, silent ventilation causes the temperature to increase slower. You can also turn to the left or right and shine the flashlight down a vent. This will repel any animatronic in the vent, but it has a chance to fail if the terminal and fan are making noise. Speaking of that, you can also turn off the terminal or fan to reduce noise. Turning off the fan will cause the temperature to rise faster, while turning off the terminal will interrupt any tasks that are currently being done. The temperature isn't a huge problem, but if it reaches 120 degrees, you'll faint and get an instant game over. As long as you keep it below 120, you'll be fine. As long as you didn't buy the ball pit, there will be no animatronics active on the first night. You can sit here as long as you want without any risk of getting killed. If you're new to FNAF 6, don't rush, mess around a little bit, and get comfortable with how everything works. Once you're satisfied, blitz through your tasks and log out. Once you finish the night, you'll enter the salvaging phase. Tonight, you'll be tasked with salvaging Molten Freddy. You'll have the option to throw him out or salvage him. The completion ending involves beating Saturday with all 4 animatronics in the building, so you'll want to proceed with the salvage. It's important to remember that, even if you fail to salvage, the animatronic will still enter the building like normal. However, we're going to try to complete the salvage anyway. You'll get $500 to spend on upgrades, and you avoid an unnecessary jump scare too. During the salvaging phase, 5 audio prompts will play, each one longer than the last. When an audio prompt finishes, you'll have to raise and lower the checklist to document the animatronic's reaction. Contrary to popular belief, the animatronics won't actually move during the audio prompt, only while you're looking at the checklist. You also don't have to actually select an option on the checklist, so just flip it up and down as quickly as possible. Be sure to wait until Henry finishes talking, or it might not count. Each animatronic has 3 different positions that can be used to determine how close they are to attacking. Here are Molten Freddy's positions, ordered from least hostile to most hostile. When an animatronic is in stage 1 or 2, there's no need to worry. If they reach stage 3 though, you should shock them immediately. Don't hesitate at all. Being able to differentiate between positions is absolutely crucial. There's actually a second condition for the animatronic to attack that makes this phase more complex. Every now and then, there's a chance that an audio cue will start playing, and if the animatronic isn't quickly shocked, they'll attack. This noise is different for each animatronic. For Molten Freddy, it's a sort of clicking or scraping sound. I couldn't find an audio file for this, really sorry about that, but you should be able to make it out if it happens. It's important to pause the tape for a few seconds in the middle of audio prompts to listen for this sound. I was just being really impatient during this gameplay and easily could have died. Also, be sure not to shock the animatronic more than 3 times, as it will drastically reduce the salvage value. If you shock 3 times, just don't shock again and hope for the best. If you get jump scared, that's okay. That's about all for the salvage phase. Just memorize the animatronic's positions, pay attention, and pause the tape every now and then to listen for sound cues. Going into Tuesday, you actually don't have to buy anything at all. This eliminates the risk of another animatronic getting in early. Just go ahead and start up the night. If you completed the salvage, you should have enough cash to buy an upgrade. Click on the equipment section and grab the first upgrade. Upgrades will make tasks faster and quieter, which is a massive help. From this point onward, you'll be following this strategy. While other strategies can certainly work for this night, what I'm about to tell you is the optimal strategy for nights with multiple animatronics, and it's best to learn it sooner rather than later. At the start of the night, turn on silent ventilation, get started on an advertising task, and turn off the fan. The fan creates a ton of noise, and this is going to get you killed a lot. Silent ventilation helps almost as much, and you can run it in the background while doing tasks, and even while the terminal is off. If you see a little icon next to the temperature, this means that the silent ventilation is on. While you're doing a task, look to either the left or right, whichever you feel like. Be sure to listen for something banging around in the vents. Turn up your volume and wear headphones. If you hear banging in the vents, shut off the terminal and turn to that side. Start a count of 8 seconds and keep listening. If you hear banging in the vents again, reset that timer. Once you haven't heard anything for 8 seconds, turn the terminal back on, wait an extra second for it to boot back up, then turn back to the terminal and start a task again. If you're really worried, you can turn on the motion detector real quick to check where Molten Freddy is. Just be sure to turn silent ventilation back on before starting a task. I recommend shutting the terminal off after completing a task and waiting for a few seconds. This will allow you to hear noises in the vents more clearly, and just be sure that he's not there. If Molten Freddy isn't nearby when you turn the terminal back on, you can also run the fan for a few seconds to get the temperature back down. Just be sure to only do this for a few seconds, or you could get jumped very quickly. If you aren't worried about temperature and really want to rush out tasks, you can figure out where Molten Freddy is using the motion detector, then put the audio alert on him while you do 2 tasks instead of 1. This is a bit risky, but it is faster. As long as you follow this pattern, you should be fine. Be patient and don't panic. Once you finish your task and log out, get ready for the second salvage. Now, Scrap Trap is very similar to Molten Freddy. Get through 5 audio prompts, don't shock him more than 3 times, and pay attention to his position. Here are all 3 of his positions. There's one major difference, and that's the sound that plays when Scrap Trap is about to attack. Instead of a clicking sound, it's a heartbeat. This actually happened during my gameplay, so I'll go ahead and play that sound effect now. If you hear this at any point, shock Scrap Trap immediately. Remember to pause the tape every now and then to listen. Again, if you shock Scrap Trap 3 times already, just don't shock him again no matter what. That's what I did here, and it worked. Well, that's all for now. Follow these instructions, and you'll be off to a great start on your quest to obtain the completion certificate. I'll be making guides for the other nights as...
Ciao!